Off the bench overtime, Bob Jacob Hester. Are the black and gold on the way to NFL purgatory? Very excited to talk about this. Very excited to see what the boys have to say. We are obviously going to be talking about the Saints Texans game. Let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen.
Saints fans feeling like their Saints hopes getting murdered yesterday in Houston as C.J. Stroud and a rookie quarterback going against this defense. And even
hold on. Now listen. Let's not look, here's the deal. Let's quit mincing words. Let's take the Band-Aid off. Let's just take the training wheels off. Let's let it rip. It has nothing to do with the defense. This offense is broken. We can't win games with Dennis Allen as the head coach, who is 17-41 or whatever he is, and Pete Carmichael as an offensive coordinator. They are not capable at their jobs. Thus, we cannot succeed. And I'm ready to say it. I know this is not going to be popular. This is not going to be a popular opinion, but someone has to say it, and who better than me? Right now, we paid $150 million for Andy Dalton. I take that back. Right now, we paid $150 million for a worse version of Andy Dalton. Derek Carr has been terrible. I understand he hasn't had time in the pocket. I understand the offensive line's been bad. Whatever. He's been awful. Absolutely terrible. Right now, actually, this is a fact. He is the second lowest completion percentage in the red zone in the NFL. I believe his is 23%. And that's second. The only person worse than him is Daniel Jones. We're 7 weeks in. We're going into the 7th game of the season. We are going to have to start saying, we're just going to start calling some of this stuff. We're going to have to start saying, this is how it is. This is what I'm seeing. Carr's been awful. There are bad quarterbacks in the NFL all over the place. Right now, we have one of them. Is it going to be like that? Is that eternal? Who knows? Carr can certainly figure things out. Maybe it's taking him a little longer to get on the same page with his receivers. He's talked about how he was texting Michael Thomas and Chris Olave all day Monday. I saw a tweet today where he was saying he was texting with them and that they all have to get on the same page. So, the book isn't fully written. This team can turn it around. The schedule is soft. We know that. The schedule's soft. The craziest part of this is that we're 3-3. And we are real close. Like if you flip the Green Bay game or even flip the Houston game, we're 4-2. And we have a great chance of beating Jacksonville, who it looks like will be without Trevor Lawrence. So we're one game away from staring at 5-2. All right, we're 3-3. But if we're 4-3 and then we can kind of rattle off a few wins here, the schedule is soft enough. Even if we lose 4 more games the rest of the season, we're still 10-7. Can that win the NFC South? Sure. We've only played 2 divisional games. We're 1-1 in the division. So there's still time for the season. So the big picture goals are still there. But the small things, like our quarterback, our offensive coordinator, our head coach, our entire offense, right now are garbage. And it's okay for us to sit back and say, yeah, that's what they are 7 weeks into the season.
Even though it looked really easy early on, it's not like they finished strong, right? It's not like he finished with any sort of overwhelming numbers. And yet, I'm always accusing Kirk Cousins of empty calorie games.
Yeah, you are.
Derek Carr's 350 here for 13
the
points.
Emptiest calories.
My man's just ate an entire bag of cheese puffs.
Yeah.
And I love cheese puffs, so I get it. But ain't nothing good when you eat the whole giant, the little cheese balls, those giant barrels of cheese balls.
Yeah, the plastic
I can't
barrel.
control myself around them. They ruin your stomach. They're bad for you. And that was essentially what Derek Carr put on the field yesterday. Real tough to sit up here and not give, and continue to defend that Derek Carr is an upgrade over Andy Dalton, unfortunately.
There you go. Boom. Said it 10 seconds ago, and I said it all off season. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Derek Carr gets it figured out. But as of right now, as of Monday, he just isn't. Here's the deal. We were better last year offensively. Offensively, we were better last year. There's no reason that should be the case. There's no reason that team last year should be better offensively than this team this year. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable for the weapons we have and the players we have and the investments we've made in this team. I don't care how bad the offensive line has been. Honestly, I don't care how bad Pete Carmichael's been. I don't care how bad Dennis Allen is. This offense should be better. It should not look like this. It is fundamentally broken. And now we're hearing about how the locker room has problems and, players are hinting that other people aren't putting in the sacrifices and preparation. I mean, right now, this is a mess. This is a mess. We're going into a game Thursday night against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's in a horrific spot. 2 weeks in London, came back to immediately play a divisional game. Their quarterback is hurt. They're playing on short rest to come to the Dome to play on Thursday night. We should beat Jacksonville. But my God, if we do this again and it's 6 to 12 at halftime, or 6 to 12 would be a high scoring game in the Saints world. If it's 3-0 at halftime, people are going to be losing their mind, me included. The Houston game is the same thing as the Green Bay game, just flipped. Green Bay, we didn't allow a point in the first half. We lose because we scored 17 points. The Texans game, we allowed 3 points in the second half. 3. And we lose. Why? Because we scored 13 points. Both games. Green Bay, first half, allows 0. Houston, second half, allow 3. Lose them both. How's it possible? How do you lose to Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, and Baker Mayfield at home? Because you can't score. Take New England out, because obviously New England is the outlier. We are averaging 15 points a game on the dot. 15. There are junior varsity teams in Louisiana who score more than 15 points a game. I mean, I said it before New England. I'll say it again. We're underratedly bad. We are underrated at how bad the offense is. The Carolina Panthers offense is absolutely vomit-inducing. And I think we've scored 3 more points than them this entire season.
Fortunately. He's pretty good up until the 30, right? Like, the offense is actually great at not going 3 and out. They're great at getting a couple first downs, but my God, when they get close to the end zone, they just piss down their leg.
Yeah. The last series, once you got down there, like, you had a timeout. There's no rule in the NFL that says when you're in that situation, you can only throw between the hash and sideline. There's not a rule. You can use the.
That's a great point. Great point, fellas. The last series, everything was the same thing. It was all these sideline fades. Some of them going out of bounds, some of them uncatchable, but just sideline fades. It's 3rd and 8. It's 4th and 8. Why are we not throwing the ball in the middle of the field? On 3rd and 8, throw it in the middle of the field, and let's convert a 4th and 4, a 4th and 5, a 4th and 3. Not that we would have done that anyways. But why is it all these why is it all these fade routes to the sideline? I mean, it's crazy.
The middle of the football field, they weren't going to give you a 15-yard penalty. I think the Saints thought that.
And that's why you keep a timeout there. Like, that's the exact reason, to keep the entire field open.
So you can use the entire field. And I realized the protection was ish. I realized that. But, man, it was like, get the ball, throw a go route. Get the ball, throw a go route. Like, none of those plays were ever going to hit. And, you know me, like, the last thing that I want to do is sit here and ever say, oh, yeah, I was right. I got that. There's some people in this business that they love to do that. In fact, I think that's why they're in the business sometimes. I want to be wrong on Derek Carr. Like, I want to be wrong.
Yeah.
I want to come here and say, man, I got that wrong. So glad he's doing well in the black and gold. But it's just, it's the same stuff, man. There's a lot of yards, there's some stats, and there's some moments. Like, this isn't falling off a cliff. There's moments, but there's not enough. And in those times, and I realized the fourth quarter stat, right, of all the comebacks. And we were watching the game yesterday, and I'm watching it with my oldest son, who's a gigantic Chargers fan, like the biggest one I know, bigger than I am. And I'm like, look, it's okay. Hey, Derek Carr's got all these fourth quarter comebacks, the most of any active player. He goes, yeah, Dad, but 70% of those were against the Chargers.
Yeah, fair. But I mean, yeah, but through 2 games, that was the separating factor between him and Dalton. Is that he was still playing like Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
But unlike Dalton last year, who was just feckless at the end of games, he found you ways to make a big play and close out and win the first couple. And it looked like.
So let me go back to the go routes. The go routes that he's talking about is like a great kind of embodiment of how this team is played. I always hated whenever it became like in vogue to do the goal line fade, where quarterbacks around the goal line, they would just kind of throw basically a fade route to the corner of the end zone for their wide receiver. And I always thought that's such a wasted play. You know, how can you not draw something up? How can you not scheme something up? How can you just do like a high school play of throw it up to your best player and see what happens? You know, like I always hated that. And that's exactly what the Saints do in those moments. And it's because they're kind of playing like this weird kind of backyard football. I mean, even the 4th and 4 play to Kamara was a high school play where they just dumped it to their best player. That was it. There was nothing. It was 4th and 4. They just dump it. Just dump it to Kamara. No blockers, no scheme, no nothing, and see what happens. Hope we can make something happen. We didn't throw. I would love to know how many times we've thrown over the middle of the field. I mean, Michael Thomas, if you could pick one receiver in the NFL on a 4th and 4, one receiver in the NFL to run a slant route and get you 5 yards, Michael Thomas might be the number 1 guy. Honestly, because he's been so good this year, and making those tough contested catches is what he's made his entire career on. And the fact that it's not even an option, the fact that we don't even see it, we don't even think about it, it never happens. That part is just driving me crazy. And Carr, I don't know if it might be the system. It might be the fact that Carr is not used to the system yet, or him and his receivers aren't on the same page. Like that might be that. Hopefully that has something to do with it. But Carr has just looked incredibly pedestrian. I mean, he's looked like any other quarterback in the NFL. Right now, if you just watch the 6 games, there's not a lot different between Derek Carr, Mac Jones, any of those guys. I mean, I watched the Giants game last night. Tyrod Taylor was not good, but Tyrod Taylor looked pretty similar to what I watched during Saints games. It was just a guy who every yard was so hard to get. Every pass was so hard to complete. And that's how I feel like the Saints are. And when you have someone like Derek Carr and you have the offensive weapons we have, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be this hard to get to score. Because like T-Bob said, we do actually move the ball a little bit. We do move the ball. But if it comes to a situation where we have to score, it's 4th down, it's 3rd and 8, something like that, we got nothing.
He had the potential to do that again this Sunday, and he blew it.
Yeah.
So if the one thing you're hanging your hat on, then you don't do, then you're just Andy Dalton. And so that's why yesterday is so extra disappointing. And look, he said after the game, you could tell, unacceptable, completely unacceptable, and he's right. And now you see all kinds of weird issues cropping up where we'll play the full audio. I think there's a curse word in it, so I got to double check that before we go live with it. But now you got Demario Davis and Alvin Kamara both cryptically alluding to preparation and talking about how every member of this team needs to be able to look themselves in the mirror and say, am I doing what I need to do in order to be ready for the game on Sunday? So somebody's obviously making people mad in that regard right now. We don't know who.
It can only be so many people. We covered that story, the video early Monday morning. It can only be so many people because this team is a veteran team. That's the crazy thing. This team is I don't want to say star-studded, but it is kind of a star-studded roster. And maybe I'm too close to the team, and maybe I think really highly of these players. But I can tell you it is not Michael Thomas. It is not Demario Davis. It's not Alvin Kamara. It's not Marshawn Lattimore. It's not Tyrann Mathieu. It's not Cam Jordan. It can't be anyone really on the defensive side of the ball. because there's no way anyone on the defensive side of the ball can be having the finger pointed at them because they've been so good. Carl Granderson's been good enough to get a big contract. Brian Breezy has been on the team for 6 months, and he's been really good too. So Pete Werner is really good. I mean, who could it be? It's either got to be the offensive line, or it's either the offensive line, Chris Olave, or Derek Carr. That's all. That's the only people I can think of. Because who else could possibly be getting this conversation, like getting asked if they're doing everything they can to prepare? And I'd be shocked if it was Derek Carr. I mean, it like the infighting or seemingly the division in the locker room is not something we need right now. I feel like the Saints are dealing with things you should deal with in OTAs or training camp or week 1. We're going into week 7, and we're having conversations from the quarterback talking about getting on the same page as his receivers, and veterans in the locker room saying that people need to be held accountable during preparation. Like, those are conversations you have in the preseason, not going into week 7.
It's just awful. It's another one like the Green Bay game where frankly, I don't think you hold a team to 3 points in the second half. You should never lose. Yeah.
On the road.
And this offense just they cannot score 20 points. And the offensive line is awful.
Awful.
It is by far it is the exact Achilles heel weakness, glass ceiling that we thought it was going to be. Like, I'll say this for Derek Carr, if nothing else. If the offensive line was good, I do think you would be getting significantly better quarterback play. But when you pay Carr that amount of money, he's supposed to be able to overcome really bad offensive line play. And
another thing with the offensive line too, like, look, we know it's bad. It's week 7, okay? We know it's bad. I know it's bad. T-Bob knows it's bad. Everyone watching this video knows it's bad. I think Pete Carmichael, I would hope Pete Carmichael knows it's bad. So how about this? How about instead of Derek Carr holding the ball for 4 to 5 seconds, how about we do some quick stuff? How about we get the ball out of his hands? Because a lot of the time, it feels like Derek Carr is holding the ball for a long time for a guy who knows he has probably the worst offensive line in the NFL. I'm not saying it's his fault he's taking a lot of these sacks or taking these pressures, but how about we figure something out with the offense to where we're a little faster? We're getting the ball out of his hand quicker. We're calling some quick routes. We're calling some, I see a lot of holding the ball and then checking down. Holding the ball, throwing it away. Holding the ball, checking down. Let's maybe get a little faster with whatever we're doing to help our pathetic offensive line.
And he's not. But make no mistake, the O-line right now the terrible. Grades are awful.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the 50s.
Penning is terrible.
It is unreal how
Penning
poor they
has
are.
got to get off the field.
Then you got to kick Cesar Reeves at the right tackle. If you can't play guard in the NFL, if you can't pass block from the interior, you ain't going to be able to pass block at right tackle. That was bad. I mean, Trevor Penning's not even starting anymore, and then he has to come in. He gets sub 50% on the grade. Ugh. Terrible.
James Hurst, 59.5%. Now, pass blocking, he was actually pretty good. Run blocking, 45%. Right, so he was.
That's another thing. We're running all these zones. We can't block. Like, we're
84% in pass blocking. Eric McCoy was by far your highest rated offensive lineman, but even that was 66%. That's your highest graded offensive lineman. Ryan Ramczyk, 56.6%. Max Garcia, 57.2%. Saldivari, 51.2%.
What is Penning?
Trevor Penning, 49.6%.
That's got to be grading on a curve. Got to be grading on a curve. If you put a mailbox at left tackle, it's getting a 49.
I mean, what?
Cesar Ruiz, 43.9%. Pass blocking grade for Cesar, 23.6%.
God.
I'll say that again, 23.6%. Now, Trevor Penning playing in his natural position was
4
43.
of every 5 reps?
Yeah.
That's unfathomable.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to win pass rush reps if you're a defensive player.
Yeah.
Not against this offensive line.
If you had 35 rush attempts as a defensive end and you win 3 of them, that's a hell of a day at the office. Hell of a day at the office. In fact, that offensive lineman typically is worried about his job if he wins 32 of 35.
Yeah, and you're out here losing 4 of 5.
But again, he was playing certainly out of position. He's a center.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to make him a guard because you had Eric McCoy and you drafted him because you thought he could do it. He's a center, and you're kicking him out to tackle because out of necessity. And I mean, Trevor Penning's playing in his natural position, and he's out there throwing out a 43 grade in pass protection and a 52 in the run game. That's egregiously bad.
When you we talk about the offensive line a lot, and it's one of those things where, okay, it's bad. So now what do? Do the Saints just go and try and find free agents and try and just pluck people off the street? Do they make trades? Do they try and do something, bring people in? Because obviously this offensive line is terrible. So, but that's kind of like the next point of this season, or where we're at with this season. We know there are huge broken parts of this team: play calling, scheme, offensive line, etc., etc. So are we supposed to just watch this every week and just watch Trevor Penning get holding calls and fall all over himself and give up blindside sacks? Are we supposed to just watch this offensive line? Are we supposed to just watch Pete Carmichael, tripping over his shoelaces trying to figure out what to do on third down? Are we supposed to just watch these go routes to the sideline all second half? Are we supposed to just watch our defense hold teams to 3 points or 0 points and us lose? Are we supposed to sit here and watch Dennis Allen keep stacking losses in the loss column of his win-loss career? Are we supposed to just watch this and say, okay, cool, all right, par for the course? Because that's what's going to happen. We have to start changing things. We have to change this offensive line. They aren't going to get better. We have to change Pete Carmichael, the play calling. He ain't going to get better. He can't do it. Give the play calling to somebody else. We can address it in the offseason. What are we going to do with head coach moving forward? Because it's not going to be Dennis Allen. I'm over the give more time. I'm done giving more time. I'm fresh out of time. I had to switch to basil because I have no time. Okay? Oregano, yes. Time, 0. Where else are you going to find herb puns? Where else?
Also,
you say herb or herb? I've been saying herb because of Herb Jones, but I know a lot of people say herb. So herb and herb are both accepted here because of Herb Jones, or Herb Jones, as some people call it.
Oh, Blake Grupe, man. I don't know. I'm not. There are far bigger problems.
I was just about to say that when I clicked pause. I was just about to say, who cares? I was just about to say, I don't care if Blake Grupe is missing two. I don't care if he's missing those 2 field goals, because whatever. We can't have this kid expected to make 4 field goals every game for us to lose by 1 because our offense is that bad. Blake Grupe is the only thing we have. He had a horrific game, shocking game, terrible game, no doubt about it. I can't defend it. He had a bad game. I'm glad he's our kicker. Before that game, the week before, he was the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. We love Blake Grupe here. That was bad. But my God, we are talking about offensive line grades and our rookie kicker missing kicks. We paid a quarterback $150 million. We have a former offensive player of the year at wideout. We have a guy who could have won rookie of the year at wideout. We had at one point one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL at running back. We have defensive studs, all-stars, pro bowlers everywhere. Cam Jordan, Hall of Famer. Demario Davis, Hall of Famer. Marshawn Lattimore, one of the top 5, top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL. Tyrann Mathieu, one of the best safeties in the NFL. Pete Werner, stud. Carl Granderson, stud. We can't have all of that and then say, well, the offensive line isn't good and Blake Grupe missed a couple kicks. At some point, one of these guys is going to have to take credit for this. At some point, Derek Carr is going to have to say, you know what, I'm getting paid $150 million. At some point, we're going to point the blame at the 17-41 win record head coach that we've had on the sidelines for multiple years. At some point, we're going to have to say, maybe it's this offensive coordinator who's been here for 17 years and can't do nothing. He couldn't draw a play in a pencil factory. This guy can't do it. I'm tired of talking about Eric McCoy. I'm tired of talking about Cesar Ruiz and Blake Grupe. We've got Like it's the same thing as if the Lakers were talking about their third string shooting guard. They've got LeBron James. They've got Anthony Davis. At some point, it can't be Rui Hachimura's fault. At some point, it's these guys who you're paying a ton of money's fault.
Then Blake
fired
Grupe
up
on
right
this
now.
team. Blake Grupe's obviously not having the bad impact play to play, a la the offensive line. But we talked about it with Dennis Allen. You make that call, you better make sure that you're damn right. And maybe let's say so. Okay, this is
what the hell? How can he even say that after Blake Grupe wins the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week last week? How can you even say, we told Dennis Allen, if you make that call, make sure it's right? Who's to say it's not been right? Up until that game, up until yesterday, Blake Grupe had missed one kick on the entire season. He was almost perfect. And now we're sitting here saying, we're revisiting the Dennis Allen, Will Lutz conversation. Are you kidding me?
This isn't even like a Lutz Grupe thing anymore. The bottom line is you missed 2 kicks. If you hadn't, you would have been in line to take the lead there at the end. You wouldn't have needed a touchdown. You could have lined up for a field goal. Like, these are the margins. And we said it was a bit of a dangerous call for Dennis Allen to side with a rookie over a vet, considering everything that this season means to him. Like, he doesn't have the comfortability of a Peyton when he goes to the Lutz in year number 1 and gets to let Lutz work through some of his issues. Like, if this continues, Dennis Allen is fired. And
it has nothing to do with Grupe. Like, that is the lead. Dennis Allen is 17-41 as a head coach. He's not getting fired because of Blake Grupe missing a couple kicks. If Blake Grupe has a 78% kick percentage this year, which is better than Will Lutz was last year, if he does that, okay, move on. Find somebody else. Fine. But it has nothing to do with Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen that the results aren't there because of Blake Grupe. Obviously, if you make the 2 kicks, the game is different. But you know what else is different? If the offense scores touchdowns. If the offense isn't 0 for 3 in the red zone. If the offense isn't 5 for 15 or 5 for 16 on third down. That's also different. So are we canning those guys? Are we firing Dennis Allen for making the decision to sign Derek Carr to a $150 million contract? Because right now, Blake Grupe has been a better kicker than Derek Carr has been a quarterback. And y'all can quote me on that. Blake Grupe I'll say it again for the people in the back. Blake Grupe has been a better kicker this year than Derek Carr has been a quarterback. And that's a fact.
And Grupe was poopy yesterday. And you end up scoring 3 in the second half because of it.
This Texans team's not a bad football team. They're really not. I thought the home crowd, by the way, on the TV, they were popping.
Yeah, they're pumped. They look like they got the best rookie quarterback in the class. It was a great feeling.
And they have a head coach who's completely changed that team, completely has changed that culture. The Texans aren't bad. Green Bay's bad. The Green Bay loss is worse than the Texans loss. Even though we should have won both. The Green Bay loss is really bad. But they're the same thing. It's just the same. Like, we're filling air here with like, yeah, it could be this, could be that, could be whatever. The problem is obvious. The problems are easy here. We can't score. You can't win if you don't score. Cam Jordan said it great in his interview. If the defense does perfect, if the defense plays amazing, if the defense is lights out, that doesn't translate to any points on the board unless they have a turnover or something. But if they just do their job and hold the other team to 0, the offense has to score. The defense has been good. The defense has been so good, we should have only lost 1 game this season, and that's the Tampa Bay game. Tampa Bay beat us. Green Bay should have won. Houston, we should have won. We should be 5-1. We should have the same record as the Eagles, same record as the Niners. When I was coming on here every single day in the offseason saying that we could have the best record in the NFL, we could be the 1 seed, we could be the 2 seed, the playoffs could go through New Orleans, it was because of this. It was because our schedule was so easy that right now we could be 5-1. We could have the best record in the NFL right now. There are no undefeated teams in the NFL. We could be in the conversation for the 1 seed. We could be 5-1 with CJ Beathard coming to town. But instead, we're 3-3.
And oh my God, why am I blanking?
On what?
The head coach.
D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans has them has an entire team playing very well and bought in. And there's an excitement in Houston for
It's
sure.
amazing what a good head coach can do. But we could have had D'Amico Ryans. We stuck with Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. We could have had Eric Bieniemy. We stuck with Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael.
It's still a game that if you're the New Orleans Saints, right, you've got all these veterans. You have the advantage at quarterback, you would think, for right now. Well, C.J. Stroud down the road looks like he's going to be a hell of a quarterback, but you got the running back advantage, you feel like. You've got the receiver advantage, you feel like.
Defense,
okay?
everything.
You've got the defensive advantage.
Yes.
That's the thing that's troublesome is outside the offensive line, like you feel like you have major advantages against a team like the Texans, even though it's on the road. Look, it's easy travel. Like that is a hop and a skip. Like that is we get on the plane, we're up, we're down.
40 minutes.
Like that's easy travel in the NFL. A lot of times you don't have that, right? So yeah, it was loud, but you should be able, with a veteran team, to be able to handle some of those things. And I thought they didn't down the stretch. Certainly.
Here's another good example. The Giants-Bills game. The Giants were the first team in the NFL in the history to have, I'm paraphrasing this, to have more rushing yards. I'm going to mess it up now. I think it's more rushing yards, more passing yards, more time of possession, and more won the turnover battle and still lost the game. You know what the difference was? One team had Josh Allen, one team had Tyrod Taylor. The NFL, it seems like a complicated game. We say it all the time. It comes down to quarterback play. It comes down to your offense. It comes down to coaching. That's it. You can only be so good. You can only be so good. It doesn't matter if you win time of possession. It doesn't matter if your YPP is higher. It doesn't matter if you have more yards. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. What matters is, can you score? Can you score more points than the other team? That's it. That's the game. It's a simple algorithm. And every single game this year that we've lost, that's been it. The defense has done great. We've dominated the game pretty much. We did what we had to do. Won the turnover battle. Had more time in possession. Boom, lose. Why? Because we're scoring 13 points a game. That's why.
Certainly in that last drive, you could tell. I mean, they had to call a timeout. I mean, they were having a hard time communicating what they wanted to get done up front. And with a quarterback that's played as much as Derek Carr has, with an offensive line that has as many snaps as they have, you should even with the guy like Max Garcia in there, like you got to be able to get out the protection and go.
Wow, just amazing.
Yeah, a mess. I mean, it's a mess, no doubt about it. And Carr deserves a lot of blame. Allen deserves a lot of blame. Carmichael, we know that. But I mean, something's got to change. Something's got to change, because if nothing changes, this is what we'll be watching every single week. Long video today. I was fired up, ladies and gentlemen. I was fired up. I was motivated for this one. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of watching this. I'm sick of watching this product on the field. And I know y'all are too. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching. Great stuff from the OTB boys. Thank you very much again, ladies and gentlemen. The engagement, all that stuff, I keep saying this, has been through the roof. I say it every week because every week is true. We're blowing up. Bottom line, we're owning the New Orleans sports landscape. We are the voice. So, and that's only the case because of each and every one of you choose to watch these videos, choose to comment, choose to like, all that stuff. You could watch any video in the world. There's millions of videos, on YouTube, and you choose to be here, and we're pumping out the content because y'all seem to be enjoying it. So I tip my cap to all of you. Y'all make this very fun, and I appreciate the honor to entertain and talk about all of this with all of you. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace.